has surprised you most about the new tactics, online and traditional, that the candidates have taken?
I mean, it's not really new to me. I've seen tons of activity on sponsored content across all the different brands that we work with. It's sort of what I expected coming into the election cycle. We've been preparing for it. We've been thinking about it intensely here at the team at Dovetale. I mean, we're a small company, so we have to, be nimble and think about these things more intrinsically, and we have to be really careful about, how we position ourselves in this space, because we are kind of a neutral third party. But yeah, it's becoming a big opportunity zone for us. It's becoming a big area of interest for us, and then also, we also ask ourselves all the time, what are our responsibilities as a neutral third-party data company and then workflow company that kind of treats this whole ecosystem equally?
Well, and where do you draw the line? Where should the candidates draw the line if they are finding loopholes that are, to be fair, loopholes and, abide by company policies?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the answer to sponsored content is just there's two reasons. One is the rising costs in customer acquisition on platforms like Facebook and Instagram, and then also just like the diversity of advertising content. People want more places to advertise. So, at the end of the day, our strategy is to inform and educate, because at the end of the day, people are just going to do whatever makes sense for their campaign, and it's kind of hard to stop these things as a company like ours. But as the platforms like Facebook, they have more responsibilities to either crack down on content that's either fake or misinformation or fake news, and then specifically, there's also government agencies that also need to crack down on some of these issues as well.
Regulation is a theme that often comes up when discussing these matters. Do you believe there should be more, and which parts of this of SponCon should it focus on, the platforms or the advertisers?
I think the advertisers need to be held to a higher standard. Of course, like if they're sending fake news, if they're lying to customers on purpose, there needs to be bigger fines. There needs to be more ramifications for those types of customers, specifically on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp becoming a new platform for advertisers as well. As we see more and more of these things come to fruition, we think about the responsibilities for Instagram, for Facebook to collaborate with government agencies across the world. You're seeing this activity in Singapore. You're seeing the activity in not only the U.S. with the U.S. election, and then furthermore, I think like Zuckerberg making his opinion in the Wall Street Journal. It's looking to me like he's becoming more in tune with some of these regulations. So I think that over time, this is sort of just the tip of the iceberg, and we'll start to have more and more regulations as we think about the future of this particular type of advertising. But in general, we're seeing improvements across the platform. Some people say it's not enough. Some people think it's on pace to change the industry. I think it's we can always do more. I'm an innovator. I have to think that way. So when I'm thinking about the improvements to the platforms themselves, how can we change the narrative for election cycles? How can we manipulate these platforms? And I want to make sure that what we're doing is helping the ecosystem. At the end of the day, we're trying to educate, and at the end of the day, we're trying to also think about how we can be thought leaders, and then ultimately, how can we get to the right solution? Because this is a tricky subject.
Mm-hmm. Is there a role here for machine learning and AI to combat all the fake news and the spammy accounts?
Of course. I mean, machine learning is a core piece of our pitch here at Dovetale. So I think about machine learning, artificial intelligence all the time, and I think about how everyone's sort of scared about the situations that we're currently in with machine learning, artificial intelligence. And I only think it's about perspective. I think it's about do you think that machine learning and artificial intelligence is going to make these things harder or easier, or do you think they're going to be, or do you think that we're going to have an easier way to collaborate in the future? I mean, deep fakes alone, sometimes I can't even tell the difference. So I think as we think about the future of data systems, data portability, privacy, more and more of these types of data systems, how can we be more educated as a society, and how can we start to understand these systems a little bit more? Because I think in general, people don't really know how machine learning works, or how data scraping works, or how obtaining data works in the first place. So, of course, data is a huge part of our business here at Dovetale. Workflow, data auditing, making sure fake news and bots all kind of work into the fold. But in general, what we find, especially through our surveys with the public, is most people don't know how this data is obtained, nor do they even know that Facebook is even the same company as Instagram. So I think there's a lot of education to happen in the market at this point, and specifically around machine learning. I think they should be introduced at younger ages. I think that more and more people should know how these systems work, and then specifically how social networks make money.
There's a possibility, Mike, of the field, the Democratic field, consolidating significantly over the next couple of weeks. I think some people actually hope that that happens, but it's going to be bloody until then. What kind of tactics are you watching for? What will we see over the next couple of weeks?
So I'm always kind of keeping an eye out for bot networks, specifically in countries where there are no significant ramifications. Countries like Indonesia, where there's a high pocket energy of bots that are kind of surfacing up through, especially elections and fake news cycles. I'm looking also for fake news, like specifically, we commented in The Verge about an article that specifically mentions fake news as it pertains to the Bolivian government. We're constantly looking for this stuff, but again, we don't get paid for this stuff. We just look for it, and because our business model is specifically with brands and agencies. So this is all kind of like interesting things for us to look at. But at the end of the day, what we're really concerned with is sort of like how Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all these relative social networks are cracking down on fake news, bot networks, all these types of things. I think they're doing a pretty good job. It's a tough problem. Everyone gives them a tough time, but we can always do a better job. It's a really tough thing to do. And at the end of the day, I think what we need to focus on is working together on these types of problems, because they are vast. I mean, Facebook alone has billions of users. Twitter has hundreds of millions of active users. It's a really tough thing to do. So we have to work together as a country to figure out these things, because again, machine learning can only go so far.
And quickly, President Trump is looking ahead while the Democratic candidates battle it out. He's already bought the YouTube masthead for Election Day. How much of an advantage does the president have, and will the Democratic candidate be up to the task of taking him on online, where he has shown himself to be an expert?
There's a significant amount of spend through the Trump campaign. He knows him and his team know the strategies. We see it very clearly, because when someone follows a specific account on Twitter or Instagram, they're pushed more and more content from those relative positions. So we think about how much advantage other election or how other candidates have. Specifically buying the masthead on YouTube, I mean, you're hitting a huge portion of the eyeballs in America. So he's going to have a big advantage there. I think as a platform like YouTube, they need to be more equal across all the different candidates if they're willing to spend. Obviously, there's a bid-ask spread within the model itself within paid advertising, but again, there can be more regulations from government agencies to tackle problems like that. It's simply too big of a problem for us to tackle at Team Dovetale when you're mostly worried about sponsored content. But again, we're willing to work with a lot of those organizations because we see that data as a third party, and we're not biased based on that data.